encouraged you, just know that you encouraged me equally. And, there's been so many blessings that's been laid on our band through this trip. Because, if you think about it, playing 8 different times in a matter of 10 days for a singer is tough. And, we could play all day long every day. It doesn't hurt any of us, but for Matt, I know that a lot of people have been praying for his voice here and around as we've come through. And, I praise God that, his voice has stayed strong. He sounded like a frog in his throat, away from playing a few times, but God has been there and strengthened him and allowed him to bring the words and sound good, too. So what I'm going to talk to you about, and I'm not going to drag it on, but I'm going to talk a little bit about Job. Has anybody read Job? Yeah. If you think you got it bad, read Job. Okay, because ain't none of us got it as bad as what he had. Because Job was an upright, walking with God, faithful and blessed. He wasn't doing the wrong things. In fact, God was so confident in Job that when Satan came to him and said, if I take his things, he'll surely curse you. God was like, no, I don't think so. You can take his things. And he's not going to curse me. No, Satan thought otherwise. So I'm going to share a couple of scriptures about the things he took from Job. And when I read these, I want you guys to think about the worst things that have happened to you. And I'm sure there have been some bad things in your life. But stack up what happened to Job in this little short period. And as we go through, you'll see that Job still didn't waver. Even though he had a wife, was like, just curse him and die already. And he's like, no. So let me give you a couple of these scriptures. Whenever I'm feeling like I'm getting beat up and the world's a little tough on me, I read a little bit of Job. I don't feel so bad. So, it says that in Job's first test, the angels came before the Lord. Satan came with them. And Satan was looking to destroy some of God's people. And God was so sure of Job's position that he was like, there's no one on earth like him. He's blameless, he's upright, he's a man who fears God, and he shuns evil. And it says, and so Satan replied, he said, you've blessed the work of his hands, so that his flocks and herds are spread about the land. But stretch out your hand and strike everything he has, and he will surely curse you to your face. The Lord said to Satan, he said, very well then, everything he has is in your hands, but on the man himself do not lay a finger. So Satan, he pretty much thought that, strip his stuff away, and that would be enough to take him down and basically prove God wrong. And so Job gets word that his oxen were out plowing and donkeys were grazing, and they were attacked and carried off. And they killed all the servants, put a sword to them, left one alive to send him back to tell Job what had happened. And while he was still speaking, another messenger came and said that the fire fell from the sky and it burned up all the sheep and the servants. Now this is why he's still having a conversation about being attacked and them killing his animals, his servants, taking them away with them. Then he goes on to say that some raiding parties came, they swept down on the camels, they carried them off. They put the servants to the sword, left one person to come and tell them. Well, at that point it's still pretty rough, right? Because you've got thousands of animals and people are killing them all, killing your servants. But I kind of look at it in modern day, for me, that's still just kind of material things, right? That we've all had material things that we've lost. The reality is we're all sitting here still alive with the material things. Well, it gets worse. And then it says that a mighty wind swept from the desert and struck the 4 corners of the house where all of his children were. It collapsed, and they're all dead. Everybody but his wife, dead. This is in a pretty short span, and Job is, he ain't happy. You know, I mean, he's distraught, but he's not going to turn and curse God. He still has the faith. And it says, the Lord gave and the Lord has taken away. May the name of the Lord be praised. I don't know that I could do that. The material things, yeah. The family being killed, all of them, I don't know about that. I'm thinking God kind of knew what he was talking about when he told Satan, you ain't going to break him like that. But then it goes on a little further, and he talks about give me his health. And God says, okay, I'm going to allow it because he's going to stand for me. But you can't kill him. You can basically do anything you want except for kill him. So he's covered with sores and sickness. Job is still praising God. He ain't happy about it, but he ain't turning his back either. Again, when you've been so blessed and then you have such tragedies happen to you, how hard is it to give that to God and keep praising him? I know that we can all praise God when we're up on top of that mountain. You know, we saw these beautiful mountains as we were driving through, coming from Reno into California. Amazing. But when we're up there, life is good. Are you in a valley today? Because you don't have to be. This doesn't have to be a valley. This point in your life can be the mountaintop. It's all how you look at it. Before you came here, my guess is it was a valley. And some people from the outside looking in are still saying you're down there in that valley. I say you're on the mountaintop. Because you're up there standing with God, and you've got God's arms wrapped around you, and you're in a place right now in your life where you can wrap your arms back around God and not have the world trying to pull you down. But it's not going to always be like that. You're going to graduate. You're going to move into the world. And then the world's going to try to pull you right back down. Because I promise you, the day you graduate and go out, Satan is going to be on you like you ain't never seen. Because you're not just going clean. You're not just going sober. You're going with God. And if you leave this place and Satan's not on your back trying to pull you back right away, there's a good chance that you're not walking with God. Satan's not worried about anybody that's not doing anything for God. The more you do for God, the more he's going to attack you. Now, I'm going to tell you a little story. And the guys have heard this one, I think, early on. But it's a parallel of encouragement. And I hope at the end it's going to encourage you to want to make a decision to follow God no matter how scary it is. One of my hobbies, I don't know, those of you who've talked to me, most of my hobbies are pretty high speed, you can get hurt pretty easy kind of things, evidenced by my broken bones. So we're in Whistler, Blackcomb, British Columbia, and we're snowboarding. And I grew up snowboarding. I grew up out here in California and Sacramento. We've been all over Tahoe and been all over Alaska snowboarding. And so, I mean, my skill level is probably just a little bit under some of these guys that live there and do it every day. So I felt pretty confident about anywhere on that mountain, going off out of bounds, going, ripping through the trees. None of that bothered me. That's what we went to do. So we get up there, and me and my little brother meet a guy that's a local. Meet him we're shooting pool. And we meet this guy, strike up a conversation, we're telling him from Georgia, and he seems to be a pretty good guy. And he's like, I'll tell you what, meet me at 8:30 over by the lift, and I'm going to take you guys where the tourists normally, they don't see. These are the areas that, unless you know the mountain, which most tourists do not, you never get to that good snowboarding. So all right, that's cool. So we meet him in the morning, he's there like he said he would be. And we get on the first gondola, and we go up, and you get like mid-mountain, you get another one, go up higher. Now you're up to close to the top of the mountain, and you get on this thing called a T-bar, and then it drags you up even higher. Well, at this point, first you got to understand is that the base where you sleep is only about 500 feet above sea level. Like in Denver, where you would be like at Breckenridge, you'd be about 8,000 feet already. So we went up about 8,000 feet. So it's about the same vertical mountain. You just don't start off so high. So we're up 8,000 feet looking down across all these resorts. It's beautiful. So we get off and we're thinking, okay, we're going to strap aboard. We got backpacks, you know, our packs on, and we think we're going to strap on and we're going to just take off and go down the mountain from there, where there's other people there as well. So I'm thinking, this ain't, you know, I'm going to do this all the time. This ain't none of this. And so he stops us. He's like, we're getting ready to take our board and go this way. And he goes, no. You see the ridge? We're going to go, and you're going to go as far, not a whole lot of elevation. So get as much speed before you get on that little ridge and go as far as you can go. And when you have no more speed, stop, sit down, take your board off, and put it back on your backpack. Like, all right. Well, the ledge is like 6 feet wide, and if you know anything about snowboarding, you kind of got to have a little bit of room to get the thing, keep it going when it's pretty flat. It's not like skis where you have poles and, you know. So we go as far as we can go. We get off, and we're thinking, okay, you know, I mean, it's straight down this side. And if you go off the right side, you're not getting back up because there's no lifts. You know, if you go off the front side, you know, you go down, it's all good. So I'm thinking, okay, well, we're, you know, a couple 100 yards away from the lift. That's cool. You know, it's probably more fun than what we normally do. So he said, no, we got to hike still. All right, now, we don't know this cat. All right? And there ain't nobody else around on the mountain at this point. You know, we're looking around. I mean, there's no lifts. There's nobody that works there. There's nothing. And I'm like, all right. So we had to trust, you know, we trusted him, whether we should have or not, I don't know. So we start hiking. And he takes us, I think it had to be somewhere around 2 miles that we hiked. And we're not walking flat. We're walking up more mountains. And we're going further. It's kind of like that there's a cartoon I remember a long time ago where, like, they're trudging through the snow. And it's like, you know, out of bounds. They keep going. It's like, don't go any further. You know, end of civilization. You know, and I'm like, you know, I'm looking at my little brother. I'm like, I don't know about this. Shoot, we couldn't get back at this point if we had to. We didn't know where down was. You know, are we on this face of the mountain? I mean, is there, you know, we didn't know. You couldn't see the villages. You couldn't see nothing. So we finally get to a point. He stops and he sits down and starts taking his board off. You know, it's just like we're sitting on the top of the snow. All right, I guess it's cool. And he puts his board on. We're putting our board on, and he said, and I'm like, well, which way are we going? He goes, we're going off there. What do you mean? And you know, again, if you've grown up around snow, you know what's called a cornice. It's basically a shelf of snow that kind of looks like the big, nice, soft thing that drops off and actually normally inverts back in. So I mean, it's a sheer drop. And so we're looking at that. We're like, I'm looking at my brother. You know, we didn't want to be little sissies, so we're like, yeah. We're looking at each other like, oh no, you know, because we hadn't done, you know, we hadn't really done that. And it was a good drop. I'd say between 15 and 25 feet. I'm not sure where it was, but it looked like about 300. And so we looked at him, and he could, I guess, sense the fear, and he said, look, push off, you're going to free fall. And when you free fall, work your board and get back to the back foot. And he said, the powder's so deep, when you hit, you're going to stick, it's going to slow you down, and then you just go down and carve it like a great big wave in Hawaii. You know, we're looking at him, we're like, you know, we really don't have no choice. I mean, where are we going to go? You know, I mean, we might end up a big snowball at the end of the mountain, bottom of the mountain, if we just tumble down. So he pushes off and goes. We watch him free fall down. We're like, man. I looked at my little brother. I'm like, all right, I'm free. You know, because I'm thinking, I'm going to go kill myself, and he's going to be like, I ain't going. He'll walk back down somewhere, leave me down there. So we push off. We're free falling, and we're just kind of looking at each other, dropping down side by side. We finally hit the snow. The back digs in. We get weight on that back foot, and it just slows you off. And it was one of the most memorable runs I've ever been on. Nobody had been there. 4 foot of powder. We're ripping through the trees. I mean, it was just unbelievable. We had to make a choice whether or not to follow this guy. He sounded like he knew what he was talking about. You know, he was a local. He knew the mountain. But we didn't know him. I mean, he could have had 20 other friends up there and they played Beat Up the Tourist Day or something. You know? We didn't know. But in the end, we got to that shelf, and I mean, we made a decision the whole time we were following, but there really was no consequence for the following that we were doing to that point. We could have found a way to go our own direction if that way wasn't right. But we got to a point where we had to choose. And we had to choose, we chose faith. We chose to believe that what he was telling us was the truth. And if we wouldn't have pushed off that ledge, I would have never had that amazing run down that mountain that had never, to that point, that day, had not been touched by anybody else. So my challenge to you is that we've all had our Job days. All of us. Me, y'all, the band, the majors, the retired majors. We all still have our Job days. And they're going to keep coming. Especially if we're doing something for God. Are you going to follow God? Are you going to do it when it's scary? Are you going to do it when it's not popular? Because I guarantee you, to follow God, you're going to lose some of what you think are your friends.